Welcome to
Crazy, right?
A podcast
Be your own person.
for those affected by
Crazy, right?
mental health,
I wanted to just try it.
Crazy,
It's something that I've struggled with for a while.
featuring live improvised music
Now I finally got my head right again.
by your host,
am I right? Crazy,
It feels good to talk about it.
right? Crazy, right?
Dave Asher.
My guest today is Carol Pearson. She is a former comedienne who studied improv in Chicago, but recently moved back to Indiana. Carol, thank you for joining me here today in my studio. I'm going to step over here to my piano. Let's just improvise,
Okay.
but chat, not necessarily do.
Not necessarily break out into a musical number.
Right, and if we do it, would just be kind of like, yeah, based on something real, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So what, people say sometimes, they're like, oh, that's so real, you know? You ever heard that?
Yeah.
What for you right now would be something where a topic, maybe about your life, where you would feel compelled to jump in and give a refrain of, oh, that's so real.
Oh, gee. I think probably just general existence.
General existence is so real.
I find that sometimes depression makes existence a bit of a struggle. I think part of that comes from the misconception that it's all just disappointment or sadness. You know, we have this tendency to associate depression with things like, oh, my sports team didn't make the playoffs, I'm so depressed. But where the struggle comes in, it's more to do with the fact that depression in its purest form is a little bit closer to what people go through when they're grieving. So, you have the anger, you have the sadness, you have the lack of energy, the lack of motivation, the numbness, and just getting by, just existing becomes one of those things where you wake up and you don't know if you want to go on, but you have to.
Have you ever had suicidal ideation?
Once in college, I wasn't very successful with it, obviously.
Good.
But I just remember waking up and thinking, I don't want to go on anymore. I should just take some painkillers and be done with it. But I didn't know how many to take, so obviously I didn't take enough, and nothing came of it. But that's just one of those things where now this is the first time that I've spoken publicly about it, so let me see if I can get my thoughts in order. It wasn't anything selfish. It wasn't like, oh, I'm doing this to draw attention to myself, because I obviously didn't tell anybody about it. It was just one of those things where a thought took over in my head, and I didn't know how to cope with it. I wasn't...
What was that thought?
It was just... life would be easier for other people if I weren't here.
Why did you feel that way? What was this burden that you felt like you were putting on other people?
Well, I have several medical issues. I mean, I'm diabetic and asthmatic, and I just figured rather than my family having to deal with me having those medical issues, it would be easier for them if I weren't putting any sort of a financial strain on them. But
Did you ever have a moment after the attempt where your family might have resolved this issue in your head, inferring perhaps that you are not a burden?
oh, my parents have always been really supportive, and so I think just knowing that they continued to be there for me. And over the course of the years, I've found out that both of them had issues with depression. So I think there was some sort of, okay, well, I can go to them now. I know that they'll understand where I'm coming from. And they'll understand the thought process that I'm having. So it was one of those kind of birds of a feather flock together type things, if that makes sense.
Yes. And you've done some improv.
I have done some improv.
When did that start?
That started in, I think, 2005. And I was driving up to Chicago from Indianapolis every week, and then I just decided I should move up to Chicago since I'm up there so often. So I moved to Chicago to do improv, which I think I did until about 2011, 2012, give or take. And then discovered that I was probably better at writing than I was being on stage, so I kind of transitioned over to that.
What was it about improv that drew you to it, and why do you say that you were better suited to writing?
Well, I think what initially drew me to improv was being forced to emote on stage and being forced to emote around other people, because I had so often just held things in. And so it was a safe environment where I could express myself and kind of release any pent up fears or anger or sadness, because it was expected on stage. As far as being better suited to writing, it was just more of a timing issue and discovering that I'm not really that good at improv.
Why do you think that is? Do you think, because of course improv, there's an aspect to it of, like you're saying, right, being emotional, spontaneous.
I think probably because I had started out originally in stand-up comedy, and so whenever I was on stage, I was trying too hard to be funny. And if you try too hard at improv, that's when it fails. It has to just kind of flow naturally, and I was getting in my head too much. So...
Right.
My head is a dangerous place to be.
Interesting. Well, let's, I like that phrase. My head is a dangerous place to be. Let's take care of each other with that, and let's give a little song. My head is a dangerous place to be. Whenever you're ready, Carol.
Okay. My head is a dangerous place to be, full of emotions and no tranquility. Deep, dark thoughts, that's where the demons lie.
some of those deep dark thoughts, Carol.
Thoughts that I'm not good enough, that I'll never amount to much.
Oh, doesn't that just sound like everybody? What are some demons that are specific to you?
Oh. That I'll never find someone to love me. That I'll never succeed at writing. That I'll fall down the well of addiction. Or an even darker place of depression.
Well, so what have you struggled with addiction with?
Mostly caffeine. There were a couple times when I had to take long breaks from alcohol because we do have issues with alcoholism in my family.
What is your current relationship with caffeine and alcohol?
My current relationship with caffeine is highly dependent. Alcohol, I'm moderately breaking from.
What is the impact on your life overall? How would you say alcohol has impacted your life?
Well, it's a natural mood depressant, and so if you're already spiraling down that way, and you add alcohol on top of it, it just compounds everything, and you tend to fall into an emotional abyss.
And do you try and cut back?
Yeah, I'll try to limit myself to at most 1 drink a week. So that way I don't go down that path.
If you could sing a song about the desire, a pep talk for yourself, like sing to yourself that inspirational song about maintaining as much sobriety as you can.
I want to be here as long as I can. I want to be here for my family and friends. I don't want to have my life fall apart, which is what would happen to start. I want to be free, and just be the truest me I can be.
You said that you worry sometimes about finding somebody, like a partner. Is that
yes.
right? What has that journey been like for you?
It's been up and down, topsy-turvy. I've been in a few relationships that have just ended badly. Either we wanted different things, or they turned out to be a little crazy and abusive. which I think might go back to the fact that I was bullied in junior high, and so day in, day out, I had somebody telling me that I was ugly as a dog and was just basically garbage, and I think that kind of stuck with my head in some way. So I've been trying to get out of that mindset. But I may be attracting the wrong people because of it.
Is there something that you are looking for that you're aware of that would be a healthy thing to look for?
I think someone with a good solid sense of humor that's not based on tearing other people down, but more aware of how words can affect people, if that makes sense.
Tell me a little more about that. I think I understand. Have you? People have said the wrong thing to you at times.
Right. Being called something of a crazy bitch just for saying that after I had shoulder surgery, that my parents were going to come help me clean my apartment. And somehow that led to a fight wherein I was accused of being crazy.
What does that mean to you? What connotation does that word mean to you when somebody calls you crazy?
Just that I'm not capable of holding my life together. And that I'm not able to maintain any sort of a sense of balance or basically live the best life that I can. That somehow I'm a failure at life. I know that some people may find that a little bit of a jump, but that was just a way that my brain interpreted it. Mm-hmm. So
yes,
it was the context in which it was used. I mean, it's one thing if you're talking about having a wild and crazy time, or crazy meaning goofy, but when it's when the context is that you're behaving irrationally and it's meant to hurt, then that's an entirely different thing.
Who said this to you?
That was my most recent ex.
How did you meet this person?
Through online dating. Which is something I am trying to find a good site for, but
let's hear a little song about the quest for the perfect online dating site.
Okay.
What does your profile look like? What are you seeking?
My profile says I'm a tall woman. I'm not necessarily seeking a tall man, but I figure men are visual creatures and might as well get it out there that I'm 6 feet tall. I'm not a tiny petite waif. So, I'm looking for someone who's into me. Someone who can take me as I am. All my faults, all my little foibles. Someone who wants me to be the best version of myself I can be. This isn't very musical. Sorry for not singing that.
People undervalue talk singing sometimes. You were doing it in rhythm. And the content was great, Carol. So
okay then.
what is a memory of yours from childhood? The first memory that comes to mind at this point.
One of my first memories, the first one that just came to mind was when I was about 4 years old. I was in the hospital with Rye syndrome.
What is that?
It's an illness that's caused by, if you give children aspirin, why they have the aspirin, the warning labels on that, it can cause the liver and brain to swell.
Okay.
So the way it was treated was to put me into a medically induced coma for a week. And so one of my earlier memories is of coming out of the coma and one of the nurses brushing my hair and talking about how she thought I had really beautiful hair. And then I remember my parents standing beside my bed and asking me if I remembered them. Which I thought was an odd question because, of course, I knew who they were. But
And are you still in touch with your parents? You said they have issues with depression as well.
yes, I live about 2 miles away from them, so I see them at least once a week.
And you're close with them.
Yes.
Do you have a rapport with them where you can get real with them? Shit can get real.
It depends on the mood and how we're feeling. It just kind of, it's one of those things where if we're in the right mood, the conversation will eventually go that way. Kind of like with improv, it just travels how it travels. And
Do you see a therapist?
not currently. I tried seeing a couple therapists, but I didn't really feel that I got much out of it. But I do take antidepressants, which I find is helping. And I've discovered that I think that's why I've not been writing as much lately, because I had stopped taking my antidepressants. And I know that's a lot of writers write their best when they're battling their demons and in their deepest, darkest moments of depression, but I have to be emotionally stable to write. So I think having the medication to correct the chemical imbalance helps me get my thoughts in order.
If you could give yourself a 3-month plan, Where would you like to be in 3 months?
In 3 months, I would like to have the novel that I started in 2016 complete and ready to go up on Amazon. I map out the garden for next year and try to figure out what I'm doing wrong this year that's resulting in all of my plants dying.
How did you get into gardening?
It's just something that I've had an interest in for a while. My mom used to have a garden when I was growing up. Thought it would be a way to have some healthy fruits and vegetables.
Do you think in sometime down the road you would like to get married?
That would be nice. We just have to find the right person.
Without having to sing, what would you want somebody to know about you? What are you really like? What is real about you, Carol?
Well, I care about current events, take an active interest in politics. I have a master's degree in international relations, and I'm not currently happy with the way the current administration is handling things. So I'd like to find someone that's just a little harder in Indiana since it's a more conservative state.
Right.
Who is willing to hear me out on my views. Someone who maybe is concerned about the way that things are going in the world.
You can share that with them.
Yeah.
Well, Carol, thank you so much for sharing all of this with me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you again to my guest, Carol Pearson. Carol's books can be found on Amazon under the name Carrie Pearson, and she can be found on Twitter under cpearson76. Carol, take care and all the best. That wraps up this episode of Crazy Right with Dave Asher. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider writing a review or rating this podcast. And of course, we would love it if you subscribe. I'm Dave Asher, and I'm glad to be here.
Fall down.